Said that I had some bad sound, so let me go ahead and get that recording done real quick. Alright, so let's make sure all this is off. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started now. So let's go with the army because we're about to have a little skirmish phase, and I want to point out some flaws with my opponent's pick. I don't want to make him sound bad, but he's had a couple of flaws. So let's go over what we have. So my forces are the Dwarves, and I went ahead and took the miners, blasting charges, or the, what is it, Urican miners. I do have slightly better stats. You can see that compared to the normal Dwarf Warriors, who are like 22 melee attack, 40 defense, they do have 35 melee attack and 27. So they're okay. They're not great, but they do. And they have immunity to psychology. So anyway, so I have the miners, and on the other side I have the Norgrim Iron Breakers, and then I just have some Dwarf Warriors, and then in the center I have the Grumbling Guard. So my idea was to set up my army like this, use the Longbeards to buff the morale of the sides, 2 Runesmiths, good old white Grombrindle, the white dwarf. I took him in case we fought chariots. I'd be able to pop the smoke bombs, and then the slayers and all the anti-large, the wood elves, would be able to come in. You can see the wood elves just have some glade guards in the center, his glade lord, and he has some spears on the flanks and some spears inside. Now I didn't take any artillery because I figured if you see this map, there's no real good shot. So by the time that he crests the hill, he'll be ready to engage me. I'll only be able to get 1 or 2 shots off. So instead, I decided to take 2 gyrocopters and the Skyhammer. So that's going to put in some good work. Now you can see that he's starting to get some shots off. But let's look at his line of sight here. So he has his troops right here. So everything he has is already kind of blocking his view. Let's see if we can turn the camera. So everything he has is obstructing his sight. So he's not going to get great shots off. And they're kind of just clumped up together. So that's why I didn't bring any artillery. And I really think if they wanted to go artillery, they're going to have to deploy way back here on the edge. Otherwise, it'd just be kind of a waste of time. And now let's go, while we're down here, let's look at my opponent's list. So he's got some Goblin Spears, a little Goblin Knight Shaman. And all these are just Savage Orcs. Savage Orcs, Savage Orcs, Savage Orcs. And then he has some Savage Orc Boar Boys. And then his ally is just nothing but these Gorehers with shields. And then Minotaurs with shields. And he does have Morkhurt. There he is. There's Morkhurt and the Bray. No Bray Shaman, just the Gore Bull. Personally, at the end of the battle, I'll go over some of the changes I personally would have liked to have seen. Well, let's go ahead and hit forward. So we're starting to move out. We decide that we can harass, and let's just take the fight to them. There's no sense in waiting. And since I have everything on my front line has defense, charge defense versus large, except for, I think, yeah, they don't have charge defense against large. But I put my blasting charges on the flank so they can just start. So when the combat engages, they'll just be able to get all their shots thrown into that center. So you're going to see over here that I come in. I'm already starting to do damage because nothing they have has any armor. And let's just go ahead and just drop down. So 1 volley has already dropped the Rusty Arrows to almost half their life. And then you can see that the Skyhammer is just racked up 12 kills from his gyro bomb, 12 kills, another bomb that's 10. And we're just disrupting this formation as much as we can. So we're just like, why don't we they're all clumped in. Let's just get as many as we can. And now that they've completely abandoned this position, they don't really have any range units because neither of these factions have anything of range or of note except the Rusty Airs. I'm just going to take my little gyrocopters, and since I'm unopposed, I'm just going to shut down these Doom Divers. 1 or 2 groups of Harpies really could have just made a difference. So you can see they're coming in with all these, what am I thinking of? Minotaurs, which is fine, except for one problem. Everything he's charging has charge defense against large. So you can see I'm not really taking too much damage. And we're just going to start holding them up. I'm throwing all the blasting charges. I don't know if we got any kills with it. Not yet. And then over here, you can see I'm holding up this line. And my partner is just targeting everything that's big. Gorbel, gone. Next is going to be all his Minotaurs. So meanwhile, over here, we have the Wild Riders thinking they might have some funny business going on. But they didn't. And they swung out a little too wide. Since we had all our forces concentrated right here in the middle, we were able to really hammer them down. Going back over here to my gyrocopters, you can see that the gyrocopters really putting some work into there and just routing off all their artillery because they really have nothing left. And then the Skyhammer is over here, and he's about to drop a big old fat deuce right there. And one trick you can do with the Skyhammer is when you click it, hold down Alt and just drag it forward, and you can really kind of place your targets where you want. Can you see he went from 12 kills to 50? Just all these dead orcs. Now I'm looking for the next target, and you're going to see that this over here is starting to look pretty ripe. So I'm going to just take that Skyhammer. I'm going to start moving it down range. You can see that my Gyrocopters have already routed off all their artillery. And ground brindles over here stomping the ER with with the Glade Lord. And then everything else here just held the line. So we actually, me and my partner found that this is actually a pretty good solid combo. So here we go. So Gyrocopters at 50 kills. I think I'm about to drop a big old fat deuce real quick. How many bombs I have left? I have 2 bombs left. And all right, let's move it up here. So let's get a little bit back so you can kind of see how our plan's working. Just me holding the line. All right, so we got 86 orcs right there, and we're at 52 kills. I have gotten them right in the position I want because I just, like I said, I hold down the Alt key and just click and drag, and I should be able to get that bomb in any second now. I must be microing somewhere else. Yeah, oh, no. You keep teasing me. Anyway, oh, there he goes. So they went from 86, we're at 35, and I have 66 kills already. So that's just a one big drop. So I just keep moving around, finding good targets, and that's pretty much all they wrote. See, one problem that the Beastman player had is they had all this mobile cav. So these Savage Orc Boar Boys, right, they have pretty good armor piercing. Let's take a look here. So 18 armor piercing, 11 weapon damage, but they spend their whole time over, let me get rid of this. They spend their whole time over here kind of just playing in the shadow realm, just not really engaging, when really they needed to come up and start hitting my rear lines. His best bet, I think, would have been to get the miners, because the miners are the one unit that didn't have charge defense. So now they're kind of mismanaging their stuff, but they really have no other options now. So we're going to hit fast forward. I just want to show you a little bit of the Dwarven Sky Cavalry working here, because the skies belong to the Dawi, just like the ground. And it just the what else just kind of make up for everything that the Dawi lacks. So I have no real mobility. His force is all mobility. I can't stop chariots. He has the wild riders and the spears to stop chariots. I really think that they just need my opponents just need a slightly more coordinated assault, and they could have really put some hurt on us. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown here and see how our forces did. So you can see on my side, pretty much overall a decent performance. This Longbeard's not doing too great, but maybe they're fighting Minotaurs, and the Dwarf Warriors doing okay. But everybody else is doing pretty good, doing what they need to do. You can see right here the Skyhammer really putting in some work, just breaking morale, and you can see the Gyrocopters just breaking all the artillery. The Orc player, you can see just no value out of these Biggins and these Savage Orcs. He just didn't have a coordinated assault, and just, you know, you see all these resources. So he had 30, 44, 57 kills out of how many resources? That's 1,800 plus another 8, so 2,400 resources for half a unit. It's really just not worth it. And all these Savage Orcs, I think it's a bad pick. What he should have done, in my opinion, was maybe get 2 units of Black Orcs, leave 2 units of Savage Orcs just to go harass the Elf player. And then let's go take a look at the Beastman. The Beastman player dropped, I would say drop at least 2 of the, who are these? Minotaurs, grab a chariot, and then drop 2 of the Gorehers with shields and grab some Bestigors. Because the Bestigors can stand and bang with everything we have. And another note is they didn't, if you look, the only anti-large they really had was these 2 Orc Biggins. They really needed something in there, even if it's nothing more than little spears. Let's look at my partner, Void. You can see overall he did okay. He was just picking up all the pieces and just kind of doing all right. So we got one more game for you. This one's a little closer. So we decided to keep the righteous train rolling. So I'm going to cut out and cut back in as soon as it loads. All right. Whoa, my mouse got out of control there. So welcome back to the second game. So let's talk a little bit about deployment and how it already works. So I'm playing the Dwarves again. And this time, you can see that I've deployed my 2 grudge throwers on the side. Oh, I should probably go to the army list real quick. So I got the Longbeard's Great Weapons, the Grumbling Guard, 2 units of Slayers, the Dwarves Dragonfire Pass, and the Rangers and Ulthar's Rangers. I got the Rune Lord and 2 Rune Smiths kind of stripped down. I brought the Slayers for anti-large, and also because they're the only units that can really catch things in the Dwarf army. So I have movement speed of 40 versus a 28, 26. So the only thing I can catch. So usually what happens if I play Dwarves is I can kite it out. So unless I take Slayers, I can just never seem to reach my opponent. And I do have some of my Grudge Throwers. So my partner, same kind of build as he had last time. He has 4 units of his Glade Guard. He's got his Lord. And he has spears kind of spaced out with some tree kin. And you can see I put my Grudge Throwers over here because we're facing off versus 2 Empire players, and I had assumed that they're going to have artillery superiority. So by placing mine on the side, and I'm going to hold down the space bar, so you can see that they're just here, and we're just outside of each other's range, I'm going to be able to put my growth stores down onto his cannons, and the growth stores do a better job at hitting kind of the blob units than the cannons do. Because if you can see over here on my other opponent's side, they have a cannon and, I'm sorry, there's the cannon and there's a mortar. So had we deployed in the center, they would have had all four just shooting in on us from the side. So we deployed on this side here to get a 2-for-1 special going. So now I'm going to hit fast forward because it's going to be a lot of skirmishing. My partner's going to be using his Wood Elf Lord just to kind of zip in and out. So while this is all going on, we can look at their list. So they got 4 great swords, 3 halberds, Zintler's Reichsguard, and then, is it the silver bullets? No, they're just handgunners. I could have sworn, oh, here's silver bullets. So he's got 2 handgunners, and over here we got Balthazar Gelt. And you can see the artillery duel is already starting. And just check the time, so it's 9:25. We're going to check back and see how he's doing. He's got some great swords, and then regular swordsman, and then he has Lance of the Blazing Sun and Zintler's Reichsguard. So overall, I think it's okay. I don't think the Reichsguard were worth it in this matchup. I think the Knights of the Blazing Sun are okay to deal with any tree you can. Alright, so it's been about 25 seconds, or 30 seconds, and you can see I've already shut down 1 great cannon, and now I'm working, now that the Hammer of the Witches is in view, I'm going to start hammering on them. So I've split my shots. The Goblobber is hitting at this great cannon because I want them to rout off, and I do have both of my growth stores on guard mode so they don't start chasing breaking units. So I've already won this artillery duel, and now we're starting to hammer on this one. And so they see that their only option is to move forward, so they're having to move forward without the support of his artillery, and we're just going to start getting to work. Over here, I'm going to hit play now. I did decide to go ahead and move my miners back because if I just stayed on top like I normally do, those shots that miss, you see how they roll back, they would just start taking out the miners, and there's just no point in giving him free kills. So let's go back over here. I do see that he's starting to blob up, so now that he's starting to move forward, I decide, okay, let's start moving on a blob, anything that starts to blob up. Because you can see while I was aiming for the halberdiers, that shot that missed came through and just started wrecking these handgunners. So anytime you have one of these area effect weapons, I always say just aim for the center of any group. So now this Empire player is starting to posture up, so everything that he has is starting to be in range. And on our side, we're starting to decide what should we do, and I said to my partner, which we should just push now, because at this point they have all their artillery in range. We're not going to be able to get anything. I do go ahead and switch my target to these Reichsguard. I think I can get some good shots in. I'm just going to get rid of it because I'm just not getting any connections. I felt like I was getting better connection against the infantry. So now we're starting to form up, and I can see that this is kind of rattled and tattered. So I'm just going to take my force, and I'm just going to push straight up to this side, and we decide, let's go ahead and try to wrap this up. But we are going to get kind of messed up a little bit as, what am I trying to think of? We get netted down there. However, I think he should have waited just a little bit because he'll hold space here. You can see that his handgunners are just out of range. He's having to move, so that's kind of just wasted time. So now he's moving when nothing we have is in position, and he's already getting picked apart by the elven bows. Over here, the mortars are being put to good use. This is where you want them, right here on these blade guard. And the Knights of the Blazing Sun, they're going to do okay. Not great, but they're going to do okay. And then you can see that we do net the General of the Empire, and you got Prayer of Alpha and Raymond, and I'm about to hit him with Ulthar's, what is it called? Marked by Ulthar. I'm about to say Ulthar's Revenge. That's not it. So let's go ahead. We got some good shots going. You can see that now we're starting to spread out. Because of that one thing though, that net, you can see my charges really just kind of scattered all about. So now, since I can see there's no real threat to us back here, I'm just using the miners just to hold up. And now my guard stores, I'm starting just to throw over here and just trying to hit units. I don't see the silver bullets. I'm just trying to hit with 7 in range. So now you basically have almost a two-on-one situation over here. Well, it's a little bit of my partner's forces just harassing the other Empire player as we just start to push. And we're really starting to get some good value out of our units. And he is able to come back here and do some damage with these Reichsguard. But one thing he forgot about is as he's coming through, I think he's going to kill all these Rangers and Blade Guard. And I'm going to start shifting these Dragonback Slayers. I know I'm going to get netted, but I'm holding long enough just to start pulling through. And really at this point, it doesn't matter if he kills the grudge stores. They've already done their jobs. They've gained the chevron. So it just doesn't matter. Meanwhile, in the center fight here, you can see we're just completely collapsing them. I'm just triple stacking those runes of Wrath and Ruin on any of their good units, and we're just completely pulling on through. So now he's wasting his time over here when he honestly just should have just pulled right on through and just start messing somewhere else, because now the Dragonback Slayers are going to get in here and just rip apart the Zinc Right Scar. Over here, this Empire player is just wasting a lot of resources on all of this Wood Elf just kind of cannon fodder, and we're just pulling through it up and out, just bobbing and weaving. We just have to keep them steady as we completely collapse this flank over here. I do got a little bit of blobbage going on, so you can see that anytime you get blobbed, just always spread your troops out, because you can take more casualties from, say, a mortar or gunfire, and you obstruct your own unit's line of fire. So now that I got them where they need to be, this Empire, the General of the Empire is just playing around, when in fact he really needs to be getting out of here, because if you look at the Old Rangers, for example, they have, they're missing, it says 58, but really they throw twice over 10 seconds, so their armor piercing is actually 26. But still, S26 is just going to be going straight for them. So over here, we completely collapsed over here. You can see, obviously, because of the fear of my miners coming in, the halberds are going to break. It has nothing to do with any of this weekend. And over here, you can see all of our fast units are now starting to come through and really starting to push. And the Rumbling Guard has actually felt the bloodlust and just started to chase me right on through. I didn't have anything else. My Slayers were occupied elsewhere. But normally that's what I like to use them for in this Empire matchup. They don't have any real cannons. They send those Slayers into the back line, because unless they're greatswords, they don't have the armor to really stop the Slayers. Over here, you can see the Dragonback Slayers are really starting to wrap up all these in the Rice Guard. And I'm just keep pushing these Rangers up and through. So the Mighty Balthasar Geld over here, and he's doing what he needs to do, right? He's trying to leech in with that final transmutation, but we do have a Lore of Life caster out here, and we have the potion. I think he would have been better off hitting off with Plague of Rust on, say, my units and his, what is it? What I'm trying to think of. Like, wherever his mortars are targeting, try to hit those with Plague of Rust. He can really start doing some damage, because mortars don't have a high AP. But now that we've trapped him in here, I'm starting to get the Lord of Dragonfire pass in. The Raiders just keep falling around, keep trying to hit Balthasar Geld. He is marked by Ulthar, so now everything that we have that's going to turn fire at Balthasar Geld is just going to completely shut it down. So you can see how we've collapsed this one side, and we're just pulling through. So now they're just having this last kind of dash of, what I'm trying to think of, this kind of mad dash for freedom, just trying to run away. And everything's going the way we want. So the Grumbling Guard is just completely shutting down everything we have. We're able to push. My partner must be microing elsewhere. That's why this tree king kind of just shooting shit and moving around. And they just keep dropping bombs over here, but really it just doesn't, they just have nothing to really stop us, as we have completely collapsed it. Although Balthasar Geld over here is managing to round off his Blade Lord. So let's catch it up here. We keep on going. This kind of music is too loud. They see me rolling. Let's drop that down. There we go. Alright, so we're doing okay there. So now they're completely collapsed and we're just pulling right through. So what little forces they did have left, it's just not going to be enough for all these things. And you see the biggest danger, and what in hindsight, I think what they could have done is taken the Lord and taken Balthasar Geld and really started targeting these Rune Lords. So if you look at the Rune Lord, he's just buffed himself. So normally he's 120 armor, but if you drop it by another 6, if you drop it by 60, he would be at 60 armor, and that would allow his Lord to really come in and start smashing my runesmiths. So I was able to really just push through and just be so tanky and just completely collapse them. So now it's just a complete retreat, as anything they have left is just running away and being picked apart. It is kind of a cluster mess right here, and just everything completely collapsing. And they really don't have too much else left. The one thing that was kind of done well is this General of the Empire lasted a lot longer than I thought. They were really able to, he was able to kind of push in, push out, and pull out whatever he needed. So well done on him. So let's take a little look at kind of a breakdown of how everything did. So only 120 kills out of my 2 Grudge Lords, but they did shut down these the cannons out of Master Brew here. And I did gain a chevron out of it. And then we can see that my Rangers and Ulthar's Rangers didn't really do a great job, but you know, it's kind of matters the situation. And then the Dragonback Slayers killing off of this Zentler Rice Guard. This is almost all entirely their kills. And then the other Slayers just running around, just being ham, taking away handgunners, whatever they can get a hold of. And then great performance out of the Grumbling Guard and the, what am I thinking? Warriors Dragonfire Pass and the other Longbeards. The other one is not so great, but that's okay. And then just constant Runes of Wrath and Ruin, just completely shutting them down. So let's look at Master Brewer. I think the Halberds were too much. Should have dropped one group of Halberd, maybe try to pick up something a little bit more speed, maybe some Flatulence, just to run in and take down the Elven Spears. Besides that, I think overall he had a decent list, maybe just not utilized the best as possible. So let's look at a Void here. Great job out of the Wild Riders, just running around picking off the weak. And the rest of his forces just kind of a holding pattern. You know, kind of middle performance out of everything, but he did a okay job. You can see the Wild Ranges. I don't think he ever even got into combat. And let's look at the other opponent here. So you can see his cannon and mortar probably get into play in the late game. But really, the only thing that was pulling through for him were the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who were able to get up on his my partner's Glade Guard that were isolated. But I think they both had decent lists. It's just we had